lesson 86, the 16th review of the series, looking at lessons 71 and 72. 71, only God's plan for salvation will work, and 72, holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. So, how has it been for you with your grievances? How has it been for you with salvation, your function? Are you still chasing wildly about for salvation in the world and the many people and many things? Have you been reaching for it and not finding it? Just mistaken about where it is? Have you been attempting to prove that God's plan for salvation won't work by holding grievances, making wrong of things, attacking them? Uh, where have you been in despair or distraction from what's really going on? And it's all okay. A lot of there's this big thing that happens. At least it happened for me, and I see it in a lot of spiritual people. Is now that I've got a hint or a better idea of how to do things, where salvation is, what's right, and what's going on, then I start to really have grievances. Now I've got a whole new kind of grievances, and I attack myself and I attack other people for not doing things the way that I understand them now. This is what I understand God's plan to be right now. Therefore, I'm going to judge and moralize and criticize and attack myself when I'm not following that, and others when they're not following what I think is the right way, what I think is God's plan. So, this stuff is going to come up. And could you allow it up? Could you allow for all of the things that were adopted in your innocence and that other people adopted in their innocence to come to the surface and notice the feelings that would hold you in resistance to salvation, in resistance to functioning as the light of the world? That's all. The course is just taking us through this again and again in many different ways, but it's all the same thing: coming to salvation, being the salvation, allowing salvation to happen. So, could you be easy on yourself as you and have courage to just look at some of the senseless things that you've been subscribing to, that you've picked up in your innocence, and just allow yourself to let it go a little bit at a time. So let's begin. Only God's plan for salvation will work. Could you allow that idea and just notice what comes up for you? Only God's plan for salvation will work. And have you noticed going for any people, places, or things for your salvation? And what have you been reaching for as if it would save you, as if it's your salvation, as if it's your fix? And could you notice how it feels to be going after some person, place, or thing for your salvation? Could you allow that feeling that would attract you to chasing salvation where it's not? What's the feeling that would drive you to make this person, this place, or this thing your salvation? And could you surrender seeking salvation in the world? Would you surrender your perception of what salvation is? This feeling. When could you surrender this feeling and perceive God's plan for salvation? Only God's plan for salvation will work. And it's okay. I've thought salvation was in the person. I thought salvation was in the money or the medicine. I've thought salvation was in the world. And it may be, though, how does it feel when I'm searching wildly for salvation outside? How does it feel? And could I allow that feeling and just ignore the thoughts? Just feel this feeling that would have me searching wildly. And could I release that feeling in my mistaken search for salvation? Would I release looking for salvation where it's not? When could I release this feeling and rejoice in a salvation at hand, present, here, now? And only God's plan for salvation will work. Holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. Some attack, some attempt to prove that God's plan for salvation will not work. Where have you been holding a grievance with anyone or anything, or even God? Could you notice how it feels to be attempting to prove that God's plan for salvation will not work by making wrong of what's happening? And it's okay. This isn't the time to stack on guilt, moralization, or judgment about what's coming up for you. Just noticing what's coming up for you. Any feeling, any stuck energy that you just were carrying in your innocence. Could you feel it? And would you no longer defeat your own best interests? Would you let go of the grievance? When could you let go of this grievance and this attack on your own best interests? That's whatever's happening. And, you know, just presuming that only God's plan for salvation will work, and holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. And that salvation, what if everything that was happening, everything that was that? Are you attacking, making wrong of, disturbed by, fearful of anything that's happening or anything that happened? Is there any misunderstanding of your best interests being all there is? And can you notice any grievance you've been holding, any attack you've been making on your salvation, God's plan? Could you open up and let that stuck or stagnant energy move just by noticing it, feeling it? And nothing to change or modify, just surrendering any feeling that would attempt to blind you to what's happening for you. Could you surrender, give up the attack on God's plan for salvation? Your best interest, your happiness, your freedom? Would you surrender any making wrong of or dissatisfaction with what's here for you? When could you surrender your hold on grievances and be saved? Have salvation. It's here, it's now, always available, never picking and choosing. And it's your choice. Could you allow yourself to perceive what's happening only in the light of God's plan for salvation today? And can you notice where You are choosing between misperception and salvation as you look on things today. What if there are no exceptions in God's plan for your salvation? And what if you're seeing some justification for a grievance in something and thereby missing your salvation here and now? Could you be easy on yourself today and walk as if God's plan for salvation will work, and free yourself from any misperception and release the attacks on God's plan for salvation happening for you? You never have to. But could you see what's really here for you as you let grievances go and allow God's plan? Well done releasing. And we'll do it again tomorrow. Please visit the link in the description if you'd like to join us for more open topic releases and bring up any topic you'd like to release on. Anything where you're seeing other than God's plan for salvation. And have the best day you can. Thank you.